What is your response or your opinion on providing vouchers, state-funded vouchers, for private education? Maria Ruud.
Thank you. Well, this is an area, actually, I'm not sure if my opponent and I differ because I've been in 3 debates and I'm still not sure what his position is. I oppose vouchers. I voted against vouchers in committee, and I would continue to vote against vouchers. Minnesota has a wonderful school choice program. We have charter schools, we have open enrollment, we have the choice is yours. Choice is not a problem for students in Minnesota. I am opposed to the idea of taking public dollars and giving them to a private institution that lack the oversight, standards, and review that our public schools do. You may hear reference tonight to the Milwaukee public school system and their vouchers, and I challenge all of you, go home tonight and Google it. You will be stunned with what you see. It has not been a successful program. They are proven to fail, and I oppose them. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Cullen.
Thank you. Vouchers. In general, I do not support vouchers. However, I think that there is a case for low-income folk in failing school districts that don't have options. They don't have the same options that higher income folk. If I look around this room, I'd venture a guess that many people in this room did, as my wife and I did, and moved out to this district because we wanted to find schools. We were in a district that we didn't think would serve our children and serve them well. We had the financial strength to move to this district and come out here, or the financial strength to go to a private school if we want. I think it's an issue of social justice. Why is it that well-to-do families have options for their children that lower income families don't have? Why is that? So I think there's just a certain circumstance, a slice, if you will, where low-income families in failing school districts, I think, need some more access and some more choice than they have today. I would support such an option. Thanks.
Our next question, I believe, starts with Mrs. Ruud. Yes. And it really has to do with 2 issues about transportation. One is the obvious, do you support the constitutional amendment that's to increase funding for transportation? And the second aspect, the question is, the 494 project, which cost $450, according to this person, $1 million, recently opened, it already appears to be obsolete. What do each of you propose as a permanent solution to the transportation issues in the metro area as well as outstate Minnesota? So in 1 minute, please share your thoughts.
This is like the 3rd most important thing you hear about at the door. Let me back up for a second. The Minnesota, the Vote Yes campaign that all of you are seeing, you're seeing some of those lawn signs that look like license plates, and they're saying Vote Yes. That is because last year we passed a transportation bill, but the governor vetoed it. In that transportation bill, there was a constitutional amendment that said, that asked the people, do you want the motor vehicle sales tax to be dedicated to transportation and transit? Constitutional amendments cannot be vetoed by the governor, so that is why it is coming before you this fall. I do support this. We are losing federal dollars because we have a lack of dedicated funding for our transportation. It will be phased in over time. It is becoming an economic issue for our state. We need to invest in more than just roads. I do support transit. The light rail has been successful beyond expectations. And that's it. Thank you.
Cullen.
Invest, I have the same feeling on that as Rob Boyd. I think it's an unfortunate reality, and I hate the idea of using the Constitution to force the legislature to put enough money into transportation, but I reluctantly support it based on that, and because I would like to see more money spent on transportation. With that said, I'm more of a road and bridge guy. I think that spending more money on roads and bridges makes a lot of sense. The park and ride seems to me to be quite successful. The transit system, the Hiawatha Light Rail, has has been successful beyond expectations. But if you look at the data, there's some questions about it in terms of the cost and the cost per rider. So I think we need to pay attention. When it comes to transportation, it's about effectively moving people and product around the state and around the metro area. And we need to make sure that it's effective. And I think that a lot of the transit systems are showing to be more expensive than other modes of transportation. Thank you.
This has to do, I think, with increasing attention paid to safety in the school and in the community. And it has to do with funding security measures in our communities. And I guess the question is, how do you propose the state help communities and schools meet the costs to establish appropriate security networks?
Thank you. Safety and security is a top concern for all of us, right? Not just local police, the county sheriffs, the statewide Homeland Security, and the rest. And I think that, you know, our local governments need to keep funding their local police forces. I know that Minneapolis and St. Paul have had some troubles on that. They blame it on LGA, but if you look at their entire budget, they have an awful large budget, and I think that there are ways for them to fund their system better. I think that the state needs to continue to fund the Homeland Security Fund or the money we put into Homeland Security, and the counties with the Ramsey County Sheriff and the deputies. So I think it's a big issue. I think it's one of the top priorities of government. When you look at it, we've got education, we've got basic infrastructure, and we have public safety. And so it is certainly something that I'm going to focus on to assure that we have the funding that we need. But I think the system's working today. We just need a little bit more investment. Thank you.
Maria Ruud?
Thank you. Well, I am proud to have a strong record on public safety, and I have the support of the police and have been recognized by the firefighters for my support this year for a particular bill that went for training for the firefighters. There are very few professions that, very few people that can go to work and say that they put their life on their line, and our first responders do that. So one of the things we can do at the state level is to support our men and women in service and our first responders. Those are some of the public policy issues that we can support and will help in our public safety. The other issue as well is the federal government. We have mandates from the federal government. As the federal government does not keep up with their commitment, it chokes the state, as the states then have to pass that down to the local levels. So I'm not sure I have the answer for it. I think we have to be diligent. It is obviously a very big concern for a lot of people, and I'm proud to have a strong record on this issue. Thank you.
Do you see global warming as a major issue that needs to be addressed, and if so, what action should the state legislature take to slow down or deal with global warming?
Great, thank you. There's no question that the climate is getting warmer. Every measurement I have seen shows that the Earth is warming up. The question becomes, what's causing it? There's a lot of studies about CO2 that we've all been reading about, but remember 30 years ago they were saying that CO2 was going to cause an ice age. And there's also studies out there about sunspots. Every 11 years, the sunspots go through a cycle, and we're at a peak in that cycle now. As well as every 21,000 years, you start to see a cycle and a change of the tilt of the Earth. And every 100,000 years, you get a change in the elliptical orbit of the Earth going around the sun. So there's no question that the Earth is warming up. There's no question that environment improvements, changes to energy policy, changes to how we burn oil and coal, and that can help and are good things to follow no matter what. But I don't think we really know what's causing it yet. And I think an investigation into what's causing it would be our best bet. Thanks.
Maria Ruud?
Thank you. Well, clearly, I differ with my opponent on this issue. I too believe in global warming. I think the scientific evidence is overwhelming that the globe is warming, and I believe that much of it is related to the actions of the humans. We absolutely can do something at the state. It was nice to pass the Mercury Emissions Reduction Act. I was proud to support that, and it did put Minnesota in a leadership position, and that was critical. But there are other areas where we can lead on, and those other areas include things like renewable energy, setting a renewable energy standard, talking more about conservation. The conversation about conservation is is silent, quite frankly, at the legislature, and we need to do more on that, and we can do better. I am proud to have the endorsements of all the environmental groups, Clean Water Action, Sierra Club, the League of Conservation Voters, because I take this issue very seriously, and I think there's much more work that we can do as a state. Thank you.